Hello, everybody. Welcome back to 40th Eve. I hope you guys are doing well. This is just a tester pod. It might go out there, it might not, but we'll have to see what happens. But I am joined today by Jack and Harry. Coincidentally, it's been a bit of a Gillingham invasion here, from the looks of things. So, lads, if you want to first of all introduce yourselves and go from there.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Jack, Gillingham fan. Obviously, we're coming out of the woodwork at the moment because we've gone unbeaten for the first 6 games. Not that I particularly want to talk about that. I'd rather talk about every single other League Two club if possible. Happy to be here. Thanks for the chance.
No worries.
Yeah, and I'm Harry. Again, yeah, you're right. We're jumping out the woodwork a little bit. Everyone's coming out now. Everyone's a Gillingham fan all of a sudden. Now we're winning. See in a few weeks when we finally start our losing form again, as we do every season. We'll go back in and no one will see us anymore. But for the moment, we're riding this wave, and looks like we're onto a winner here.
I was gonna say, wasn't it like that last season? Now,
do you know what the official League Two X account tweeted the league table from the 3rd of September this year and the 3rd of September last year. We're topping both. So it's like there's no point. There's absolutely no point getting too excited when the weather turns.
Exactly, and it was 1-0 all the way there, wasn't it?
I think. Do you know what as well? I think there was actually a 4-1 chucked in last year too. I think it was Carlisle.
And there's already been a 4-1 in the last month, which has took me by surprise. Remember seeing it on the night. In fact, you were playing Chesterfield as well. 4-1 win. Like, I swear that was a misprint. Well, that's what I thought. Anyway.
Look, we needed a couple of pens.
Wow.
Yeah, we did have a couple of penalties. I think the Chesterfield game, the 4-1 sort of flattered us a little bit. I felt like they started to give up towards the end a little bit, and they kind of let us in. I mean, we had Lenny Serino running in from right back to score a goal like he was a striker. I don't think we're going to see much of that again.
Do you know what? We might get onto it later, but I wouldn't mind having a chat about Chesterfield a little bit because I think it's an interesting topic at the moment. But we'll get onto it later.
Absolutely. Let's just start obviously with your bread and butter, Gillingham. 6 games in, 14 points picked up, 9 goals scored, 3 conceded, unbeaten in, was it 18 now? I think I read. I could be wrong. Like that. Under Gareth Ainsworth, a real positive start to the season, winning the last 3 games as well. How have you sort of found it? I mean, an excellent start to the season. Obviously, Gareth Ainsworth, as mentioned, at the helm now. Obviously, has great pedigree just in management and at this level as well. Obviously, previously with Wickham. How's it been so far? It must be. He sort of put his spin on it from the looks of things, and it looks like it's doing all right for himself at the minute.
Yeah, I think Gareth knows what he's doing. He's got a plan there. He's now brought his Wickham double act, Sam Vokes and Gareth McCleary together, so that's going to be a fun one to watch. I think it's that sort of grinding out results, winning tight games, but I think the numbers are starting to show a bit of a vulnerability there. I was looking on FootMob, I think it was. They've got an XG table, and I think our expected points are, we're 5 points above where we're supposed to be. So I think there might be a bit of a reality check incoming soon. Hopefully not against Bromley. We seem to not do very well against Bromley. They seem to be a bit of a bogey team since they've come up. So could be an interesting game this weekend.
Yeah, I think it will be. And I think with Ainsworth, you kind of got to go back. It's surprising how the window went for me, and I think that's where it starts because Gareth came in. Did he have 6 games? I think Harry at the back end of last season, 5 or 6 matches, but we went unbeaten. We scored in every one, which was the biggest surprise. It wasn't so much that we went unbeaten; it was the fact that we were scoring in every game because we've gone less than a goal a game for the last. Feels like a decade, but 3-4 years easily. Gareth kept the vast majority of the squad. So we had Masterson out of contract. Who else signed? Max Clark was out of contract. Robbie McKenzie was out of contract. He had the opportunity to make quite a lot of changes, and he decided not to. Yeah. Which I think, not to speak for you, Harry, I don't know about you, but I was surprised by that because we had the chairman on the ME7 podcast towards the back end of last season, talking about how we had the vast majority of our budget would be opened up for this summer because of players that were leaving, Timmy Dieng, Ashley Nadesan, players like that. And he decided to sign Max Clark onto a 1-year deal. Conor Masterson came back for a year. It was surprising, and I feel like that is why we're doing as well as we are. I think the players feel, we all know what Gareth Ainsworth's like, and I feel like the players feel like they want to be here and they believe in themselves. And I think it is as simple as that. We are grinding results out, but I think we deserve it, excluding Oldham. But I think we've deserved to be where we are.
Perfect stuff.
You've touched on something there. I think it was a good idea from the Gallinsons to bring him in just before the end, that sort of pre-season almost, to sort of see the players. I think he's got a chance there to see who he likes. He's obviously found the group is good. The other managers, Clements, Bonnet, didn't seem to get the best out of them. He's come in, seems to get this sort of fighting spirit going now that they seem to be able to grind these results out. So I think it's a good thing he's kept the squad. Like you, we was hearing players out of contract, new squad, 2-year plan. He's kept the same squad. He's brought players in. Dackie's back for another year. If you get Bradley Dack playing well, probably one of the best players in League Two, maybe even leagues above. It seems like we've got a bit of a thing going here. If it carries on, brilliant. If not, we're going to see Gareth Ainsworth what he's got, because at the moment it's all been sunshine and rainbows pretty much since he's come in, unbeaten. When the defeats come in, because they will, we won't have a whole season. You never know. We could be invincibles of League Two. Probably not going to happen.
It's League Two, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. When the inevitable does happen, what will Gareth do? How will the dressing room react to that? It's going to be an interesting one to see.
Okay, good stuff. I just wanted to ask about the transfer window as well. You mentioned about that continuity. Obviously, a couple of players that are signing at Gareth Ainsworth now as well. Sam Vokes, Gareth McCleary, a couple of interesting ones in there. Johnny Smith signing on deadline day as well. And I've got to ask about Andy Smith as well. As Andy Smith enjoying myself, had a very good year and a half when he was on loan at Grimsby. How's he getting on in particular? It's just more of the curious side of me.
Again, a bit of an interesting case, because he came in on loan in January last season under John Coleman. Did John Coleman sign him? I think John Coleman signed him. We had so many managers last year, it all blurs, I'll be honest. But I think, John Coleman brought him in on loan. And he played the first few games and he got quite a bad injury. So we didn't really see all that much of him between, I'd say March, the end of the season. We there was an inkling that we would be signing him on a permanent deal, but then it appears, and I don't know whether this is right or wrong, but we went for Will Boyle. It's quite
you did
reported that
all this stuff with Shrewsbury, isn't there?
The announcement video from Shrewsbury was an interesting one.
And now they're playing at left back apparently. So
exactly that. Yeah, who knows? But so that deal didn't happen for whatever reason, and then we announced Andy Smith relatively quickly after that on a 3-year deal. But we paid a fee for him, so we bought him from Hull. I think he's brilliant. I think he's really, really, really good, and I think he's one of those versatile centre halves that can play in a two, in a partnership, and sort of in the middle of a three. And he, at the moment, with Masterson being out, Masterson's going to be out for quite a while now. Shadogi hasn't played for the last couple of weeks, a few games. He's been our most senior centre half because we've been dealing with Sam Gale and Robbie McKenzie playing alongside him, and he's been absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I'm big fan of Andy Smith. Big fan.
And that one was my heart actually. Just a year and a half that he was here with us. We signed him on loan in the second half of the National League season. Played a big part in that final by basically concussing Carl Hudlin, who, believe it or not, was causing us so many problems that day. He scored the opening goal in that game, and the game changed when he went off, and sort of Andy Smith has gone down as a little bit of a cult hero because of that. Got him on loan again for the full season in our first year back in the League Two, and he was just very solid, so mature for his age as well. That's what I really liked. I'd have loved him back here, but I think Gills is a decent move for him as well, and I'm glad he's got himself sorted as well, because he needed to be playing regular games, and he just weren't going to get to Hull. which was a shame because I really did rate him here. You could see he had that class about him actually. I'd probably go as far as say that. Just don't play him at right back for the couple of times that he did play there because he was a bit of a disaster. But well, ignore that aside. Jack, let's move on. Jack, you wanted to talk about Chesterfield. I think we probably should. It's probably for the fact, I mean, look, you beat them in the league as well. I mean, you scored 4, which again, I still thought was a typo. And they got smashed in the cup the other night against Crewe. Yes, all right, I don't really care about that cup personally from a Grimsby fan, but I think you look at it, they put out a decent or a relatively decently strong squad for it, which does raise a fair few alarm bells, actually. What was it you wanted to mention about that the most?
Well, it's just something that I noticed during the game that we played when we beat them 4-1. And I know it's easy to say when you win a game 4-1 that you can identify frailties or issues with the team that you've just beaten. But the Crewe result is the thing that's rung some alarm bells for me, I would say. They came to us, and don't be wrong, they're a very good side with the ball on the floor, a very good side. They've got players like Dobra. I know they've signed the lad that went to Wickham and came back. Is it Berry? James Berry, yeah, I think they've signed him back, and he's obviously a very good player at the level. Will Grigg up front, who scores goals. They were a very good side. However, the 2 centre halves that played that day, and admittedly, I'm not sure what they've done deadline day or whether they might have done something about it because I've missed their dealings. But Shay Dunkley and Carl McFadden, they got absolutely bullied, and I was really, really, really surprised because I was quite concerned. Certainly from set pieces, I was thinking from a defending set pieces perspective. Shay Dunkley scores a lot of goals. I think that Fazion's scored one the week before, maybe the week before that, but he's certainly got a goal this season, at least one. And I was really surprised. They were really, really frail and weak at the back. And Josh Andrews, our big number 9, he hasn't picked up many goals thus far. He's been injured for the 18 months that we've had him, but he's looked really good so far this season. As a bit of a target man and as a bit of a battering ram. And he absolutely gave him a nightmare, gave him an absolutely torrid time. So we've beaten them 4-1 and then they've lost 7-1 the other night. And I'm just thinking that so they've lost 2 matches this year. Appreciate there's only 2 games, but the 2 games they've lost heavily. They're big defeats to 2 sides that, all right, admittedly, Crewe score goals. They're a really good team. And when they beat teams, they tend to beat them convincingly. We don't. You don't see us scoring 4 goals in a game, whether it was 2 penalties or not. I felt like they played themselves into trouble. Once things started not going their way, they were playing themselves into trouble. They stopped moving the ball particularly well. And it's just something that I'm thinking about now because there are some sides. I mean, take Bromley, for example, at the moment. I think they'll struggle against the Bromley. I think if they're playing Walsall at the weekend, I can see Walsall beating them on Saturday because I just think with their back 3 and thinking about the fact that they're going to have Aaron Presley, Jamil Matt as one of their 2 up front, I think they could get turned over, and I'm a little bit concerned about them. They're not as I had them sort of nailed on top 3 in pre-season. I think a lot of people did because they did very well last season. They've got a good squad, but I'm not so sure now. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and I put them top. Actually, maybe because I didn't really want MK Dons to win the league, but that's
I get that.
Something different, and they were, I think, the very clear next best shout. But I totally agree. It was something that Luke the other day was going on about their defence. He was more on about that if either likes of Dunkley, if I can say his name, Dunkley or McFadden never get injured. But I was looking at it anyway. They've not really strengthened a great deal in that department. Yes, they've got all these. They've got some great attacking players. Some players that should be playing higher. Mark Hande should be playing higher. Dobra probably should be playing higher. I think I'd probably go so far as say Will Grigg. He's had a very good few years at goal scoring level, but there's always that element to it. If you can find ways to pinch something past, not sure that's the correct term, but find some way past Chesterfield that I feel like they could crumble. And I think there's been probably a couple of again, I don't want to keep referring to it, but the 4 goals against Gillingham, as you mentioned, Gillingham just don't really score goals. Yeah, 2 of them were penalties, granted, but there's your indication right there that maybe, in terms of maybe defensively, they're not actually that great as maybe what everyone says they are.
No, not at all. I mean, even if you look at the other 2 goals, bear in mind, We went 2-0 up, and then they pulled one back. So then it's 2-1, game on, right? But they conceded almost straight away. It was like they were frazzled, and it was just a ball over the top. And our left backs just kind of battered Shea Dunk. He's 5 foot. I mean, what is Sereno? 5'8". He's tiny.
If that,
it was his league debut, and he's bouncing Shea Dunkley and Carl McPherson off him as if they're not there, and then buries it. 4th goal, our centre midfielders dispossessed him at the back, played a ball across, and it's an easy 4th. It just rang an alarm bell. And again, it probably wasn't ringing so loud until the Crewe result. And I appreciate that trophy, no one cares about it. I get it, but losing 7-1 in any competition isn't good. It's not good.
Harry, what's your sort of thoughts on it?
I think Chesterfield, on paper, they're a promotion. You know, most people's predictions, they've got them top or in automatic places. You sort of look at it, they've got a very leaky defence. Expected goals against the 7.2. That isn't good at this point of the season. That's mid-table at best. So it shows that they've been getting quite a lot of luck in their results even their wins. I know they're up there at the moment with us, but you keep sort of conceding goals at that rate. You can have Will Grigg up front, but it's not gonna counteract the fact that you're letting in 2, if not 3 goals a game. And you're right, Gills. We don't score 4. We don't even look to score 4. The fact that we somehow managed to get them quite easy goals. The penalties are the penalties, but the other goals, as you say, Lenny Sereno on debut, not a person that should be running through your defence, isn't going to get any more of those sort of goals all season. And then yet you're going up against a team on paper as a League One team. There's something going on there. It doesn't look very good.
No, I totally agree. It's a really interesting discussion now. Let's move on. Obviously, the transfer window closed the other day. Obviously, clubs have been busy, some more so than others, or some were just taking the mick with some of their signings. I mean, look at MK Dons. For example, I mean, some of the players they brought in just ridiculous for the level, and I'm not going to hear the end of Luke if they go and beat us this Saturday. I'm really not looking forward to that. But just in general, I think you could talk about MK Dons with their signings until the cows come home. Is there maybe anyone in there, sort of Gills aside, maybe, if you look at the other leagues or anything like that, is there any clubs or any business or any transfers in particular that impress you, or just in terms of the overall business of what clubs have done? Is there anything that's caught your eye for maybe the better or even the worst?
Yeah, I've been really interested with what Swindon are doing. I know at the moment it's not looking like they're really, really pushing on, but they're up there at the moment. Ollie Palmer, that seems like a bit of an interesting signing. We'll have to see how that goes. They seem to also be recruiting a lot of ex-Gillingham players. You've got Darren Oldacre in there and Tom Nichols. They seem to be doing quite a good bit of business. You never know with Holloway in there what's going to happen.
Fall apart, hopefully.
Yes, exactly. The implosion will come at some point, I'm sure. They were it was getting there a little bit, wasn't it? A couple of games ago. And then obviously losing the big striker up front, replacing him with Ollie Palmer. It's going to be a bit of an interesting... You know what Holloway's going to do. He's going to lump the ball up to his big man, get the ball into the net. But if it works, it works. Also saw they got Ryan Tafazili in. That's an interesting sign-in. I wondered if Gareth was going to go in for him, but yeah, off to Swindon. Swindon seem like they're doing some interesting bits quietly in the background there.
Okay, I think to sort of caveat that a little bit, I think I was really impressed with the Ollie Palmer signing. I think short term, with the injury to Harry Smith, it felt like the most natural replacement I think they could have got. We obviously saw in the week that he was available. There was a couple of clubs interested. Swindon wasn't one at the time, but I thought to myself when that was announced, like, right, okay, this seems like a very good fit for Swindon, and I'm not surprised that they've taken him on. And yes, I think Holloway loves to play with a target man. He was on about when he was here with us. He was always going on about how he wanted to play James Hansen a lot. He was like 6'5" and could head a ball, could no end, but. he was never fit at all. So he just never played him. And when he tried trying and testing with lads from non-league, we were signing players from Folkestone Invicta and Aberystwyth Town, and I think for a step up for a big, and they were thrown straight into the deep end. As we were at the time, you could probably imagine how well that went. No real fault of their own, but they just weren't good enough. It was, and I quite like that strategy at the time. But look, I'm not going to bore you about Holloway. I don't like the bloke. Truth be told, and I've made that clear on the podcast numerous times. But I also can't deny that, yes, all right, they might try and play long ball at times, but you've noticed already some of the goals they've scored. Their first goal against Shrewsbury was excellent. Their first goal against Crewe I think it was their first, or it was their third. I can't remember. No, it was their third, I think. Just terrific football. And they're very capable of doing that. And it doesn't look. I don't think they've really lost that now in front of goal. They're always going to be a threat. I think Holloway's more for the fact that I don't really think he's got many tactics in him, but he's very good at hyping a team up, so to speak, revving a team up. And I think that sort of works well. Yes, he's capable to an implosion now and again, as we've seen many times, and there's already been hints at that. But I think there's been quite a lot of players that have come in the door. I was quite surprised because I was doing the graphics the other day for the ranking transfer window, and then I think they signed like 15, 16 players in total. Yes, they'd lost a few. And there was quite a lot of experience in there, quite a lot of risky ones. Well, I say risky, not really. Jake Tabor, I won't say he's much of a risk. I think it's a very low one for that, and a couple of youngsters on loan. I think they've got a fair few loans, so it's an interesting what they've done. But I'm curious to see how it works out. And to be fair, they started off the season pretty well. I don't really have many complaints on their end as much. I kind of want to. I'm pushing this agenda. I should probably stop. Jack, what about you? What's your overriding thoughts? So
I've kind of been after sort of 5-6 games. I tend to have a little look at the bottom end of the table, and I've been looking quite in depth at Shrewsbury and Cheltenham recently over the last couple of days. And actually, I think if we're gonna talk about poor transfer windows, I think Shrewsbury, for me, have had a pretty bad one. I think they're in that really unfortunate position where they had such a horrible season last season, just terrible. We've been there. Harry will remember. Like it's an awful thing to you go down and you've got players under contract that you can't get rid of. So I don't think they've been able to get rid of the amount of players they probably would have wanted to get rid of. Certainly the amount that Appleton probably would have wanted to get out the door. I appreciate Gilead went out late on deadline day, and they've managed to get rid of one or two more. But there's Enciala, there's Nurse, there's Benning sort of hanging around that are lingering from last year. And I just don't think the players they brought in are giving me enough to think that they're going to get out of the scenario that they're in, which is quite sad, really. And I think it all stems from poor management at the top. And I'll come on to the players in a minute, but you've got Mickey Moore, who was their director of football, who was in place until the 15th of August or whatever it was that they got rid of him. So you've got a man who's in place running your summer transfer business, and then all of a sudden he's out the door, and you've got another 15 days to try and work out what you're going to do. And Michael Appleton was then in charge of it all. And I just think the players that came in, certainly while Mickey Moore were there, they signed three. I would class them on paper when they came in, three really good centre halves. When Sam Stubbs was Cheltenham's, I think he was players' player and their player of the season last year at Cheltenham. He had a great year, probably the best year he's had since he was at Exeter, I'd probably say, when they went up. You've got Will Boyle. We spoke about him earlier on. I know he hadn't played a lot of football for the last 18 months or so because of injury at Wrexham, but he's still a good centre half, and he's experienced, and he's probably what you want in League Two. Tom Anderson obviously went up with Donny the previous season, so I was quite surprised that he kind of made that move. I'd have thought he'd have hung around at Doncaster because I think they offered him a deal. And then Tom Sang, Sam Clucas, Anthony Scully, players that have been in League Two and have kind of hung around the EFL for a little while, but they're not game changers. They're not going to turn a terrible team into a particularly good one. they've signed a couple of, sort of while Mickey Moore was there and since, they've signed a couple of good young players, like the McDermott from Burnley, I want to say, the centre midfielder. I think he got sent off on his debut, but
I think so, yeah.
But he looks a really, really good young player. There's, is it Cab? I think it was, I want to say Cabia.
Yeah.
Cabia, the centre forward. I don't know if I'm thinking of your chap. Is it?
Yeah, not Jay's. Thankfully, it's not Jay's. He's all right.
No, but they've signed this young forward from Arsenal, pacey, quick, whatever, and then they've signed Ihonvian. I hope I said that right, from Peterborough, who actually seems like an interesting pickup. I know there's a lot of attitude stuff that goes in the background with him, apparently, but if you can get him playing, he's going to be a good player. It's why Peterborough bought him. Peterborough don't buy bad players generally. I know the last couple of years hasn't been a great example of that, but they tend to pick up good young players. So, they've made a few recently, but I can't see what they've done in the summer being enough. I can't see enough goals. I can't see them being consistent enough to not concede goals. I mean, a lot of the results they've had this season, the 4-0 at Tranmere, who'd they lose 4-1 to? Notts County. I watched that game. Defensively, it was terrible. And the goalkeeping scenario is terrifying because they've signed, again, forgive the pronunciation of his first name, but I think it's Eli Harrison from United, who undoubtedly is probably a good young prospect, and that's fine. But he's gone away on international duty this weekend with England under 20s, which means their backup goalkeeper, I think his surname's Brooke or Brooks, they've just signed him from Leamington Spa. So he's going to be their number one at the weekend. And you think that goalkeepers union for the rest of the season, to me, isn't, you haven't got enough experience in there. That concerns me. They play Barnet this weekend, which makes me think Ollie Hawkins, which makes me think this poor lad from Leamington Spa is just going to get absolutely battered from set pieces. Dean Brennan being the way he is. Shrewsbury concern me, whereas Cheltenham, weirdly, I think have done enough. I think Cheltenham, whilst there's going to be concerns about Michael Flynn, rightly so, he always seems to be a little bit like Holloway in a sense. He always seems to be one bad result away from falling out with the fan base.
Not quite as explosive, I feel.
Not quite as explosive as Holloway.
I mean, you'll do well to get them from anyone else.
Exactly. But I mean, they've gone on deadline day and they've signed Sam Sherring, who is a League One centre half in the right environment. He just is. I know he's not had a good time at MK, but he was very good at Northampton. Isaac Hutchinson, last time again, appreciate the last season wasn't particularly good for him, but the last time he was in League Two, he was Walsall's player of the season. I think he had 20 goal contributions in 46 league games or something ridiculous. And actually, I think Flynn signed him for Walsall. I could be wrong, but I think Flynn signed him for Walsall, so he knows him well. They lost Ethan Archer, but they've kept him till January, which is probably best case scenario, right? You've then got an Ethan Archer who's not. I don't think he's been at his best so far because I think there's been the lingering thing of a move. Where's he going to end up? Now he knows he's settled, so best case scenario, I think, with Ethan Archer. Didn't lose Jordan Thomas. Appreciate he's out for 3 months or something because he's had a shocker with his shoulder, but they've not lost him, which means come back end of winter he'll be back playing. I think they've had a good window in general. I think they've really helped themselves, and even if Flynn doesn't turn it around, I think another manager will. If you see what I mean, I think a Derek Adams, for example, because that's the name that always gets banded around for clubs down at that level, but I think somebody could come in and really turn them around. I think they've got a good enough team. Whereas Shrewsbury, I think, have had a bit of a shocker.
Did you see the news about if you've seen John Palmer on Twitter, the Cheltenham journal and stuff like that, and he was last couple of days he's been tweeted a couple of stuff of some of what's been going on at Cheltenham. I think he mentioned on deadline day, he didn't really give any specifics, but he put something along the lines of the stuff that's happening here at a professional football club is shocking. And he even put yesterday was something that caught my eye was the fact that Michael Flynn was apparently, he was washing the kits for the Cheltenham players.
I did see that. Yeah,
that's the sort of the stuff that's been coming out. I mean, we've been going on, I think, for a couple of weeks. Like, if we're looking at the sack race, I think Michael Flynn could be one of them. If anything, now it's almost made me feel slightly sorry for him. What's going on? I know there's been a fair bit of change at Cheltenham over the last couple of weeks with their new takeover and whatnot, but stuff like that that's coming out for a League Two football club. I mean, there's instance. I sort of feel the writing's on the wall a tad from that unless something changes. I think deadline day was a real plus. I mean, Sam Sherring, Isaac Hutchinson was one I was impressed by.
Yeah.
And a couple of others. It's just trying to get them together. I think they've probably done the best they can.
They did more than I thought they would.
Watch our recent ranking of transfer windows because they're very low down.
To be fair, like overall, I absolutely understand it, but just taking it into a comparison with very specifically Accrington, Newport, Shrewsbury, and Cheltenham, for example, as the clubs that seem to be down there at the moment, I don't think Cheltenham's squad is the worst. I think the takeover is going to be a very good thing long term. It's going to take a little while, obviously, to kind of feel the benefits. But I would argue Sherring and Isaac Hutchinson coming in is probably because of the takeover. I don't think you see them at Cheltenham otherwise. And at Shrewsbury, you've got the complete opposite with the ownership situation. They want their chairman gone. They've wanted him gone for some time. They keep getting promised that takeovers are imminent, and then they're not, and then they're imminent again, and then they're not. They're getting kind of pulled all around the houses with it. I just think there's potential with Cheltenham that I don't think there is with Shrewsbury. I suppose is what I'm trying to say. And if you compare the squads to some of those at the bottom, I don't think it's the worst by quite a way actually.
Yeah, and I think just to mention, I know you mentioned Shrewsbury. They've had a few batterings already this season and whatnot. We played in first round of the Carabao Cup. We beat them 3-1. Very comfortable game actually for us. I think we should have won that by 4 or 5. I think it was.
You made a couple of changes as well, didn't you? It
wasn't exactly. Yeah. I think for what I'd take from Grimsby, you've mentioned that now. What I take from us this year, we've really improved in our squad depth, and I think whatever team we put out now, I think is still a relatively strong one for the level, which is something that I've really wanted for a long time. But anyway, we beat them 3-1. There's been certain cases with teams in which they've lost already. I look at Crawley, they lost 3-0 to us opening day. But you can sort of see the plan of what they were trying to do. You can sort of see that, right, they've got a way they were playing. I don't think they've got the players to do it, but you can certainly see what they were doing. Shrewsbury, on the other hand, couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. I mean, I think signings on paper, there's some all right ones in there. There's players in there full of experience. Has won promotion from this level. But I think it's maybe the way. I think maybe they're being told to play. I don't think it helps. Yes, I agree with the fact that I think they've got such a downbeat culture at the minute, a losing culture, because they had a real tough time in League One last year. A real tough time.
Yeah, they did.
It's hard to sort of rectify that. And I mean, I've got my opinions on Michael Appleton. I don't really think he's all that, but I don't think he's been helped by people at the top. And
no.
I do think at times he has been left hung out to dry by some of those players. I really do think that. So I do share some sympathy with him. But that's just how I sort of see it at the minute. I can tell straight away they're in for a long season when we play them.
I think Appleton is another case in point. I've never particularly liked Michael Appleton. I'll just say it. I think if you take Oxford United out of it, that spell he had there, I don't think he's really ever made a real success anywhere else, to be honest.
Harry, with the players.
Yeah, I suppose so. But he went into Lincoln off the back of a really successful period with the Cowleys, didn't he? So they had a good structure, they had a good squad, they had a good feeling around the club.
Bless some quality. I mean, you had Brennan Johnson and Morgan Rogers.
Exactly, exactly right. But Appleton's one of these really divisive characters that, the situation with the fans and the club at the moment is already pretty torrid, right? There's booing, there's anti Wycherley chanting going on. to try and get the chairman out. Appleton is another one of these really divisive guys. He falls out with fan bases. It's what he does. And I don't think he's the right character for that scenario and that situation. I could be wrong, but it worries me. And I think with a chairman who might be a little bit checked out, I think Appleton will likely stay in that job longer than Flynn will at Cheltenham if it's not going well.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay, let's have a quick look at the games at the weekend. There's 12 games to get through. We'll just have our overriding thoughts and give a quick score prediction of that. So we're starting with Newport against Bristol Rovers. I mean, back-to-back wins for Newport now after a bit of a slow start themselves. Newport, I think they've lost their last 4. Yes, and 3 of them are to sides on this podcast. Kieran, for that one. How do you see that one? Thank you.
Go, Harry.
I'm going to have to back Bristol Rovers, I think, with that one. Probably, I'm thinking a 2-1 to Bristol. I think with Bristol, you're looking at a team that has potential to do something. I mean, they're going to get pulled down into a relegation fight if they don't do anything about it now. But they've got players there that can score goals. It's clear. They just need to get things clicking. I always feel with Newport, they've got a bit of a lone train going again this year. You never really know who's going to be the player that sort of breaks through there and does something. They could do something. I just feel Bristol are probably a little bit stronger than Newport County. So 2-1, I think.
Very much along the same train of thought. I think I'll in my mind, I had kind of a 2-0 Bristol Rovers win, probably. I think they're a team that are slowly getting better. I think, again, horrible season last season, change of manager. I would imagine a massive culture reset going from Calderon to back to Darryl Clark. I imagine it's a massive shift for the players. They did well again, I think, late in the window with Freddie Asapa coming in, Chang coming in, Stephen Negru coming in, who that surprised me. Didn't see that coming. I think they're a team that's slowly getting better, and I think they're just starting to click a little bit. So, yeah, I hate overlooking Newport because I feel like every single year I think they're going to be in trouble, and they always prove me wrong. But as Harry alluded to, they with the loans and everything, they do seem to be getting more and more inexperienced, which worries me. But
yeah, I totally agree with the inexperience. I've just not seen enough of Newport. I know Kieran shared quite a few concerns. I'd probably argue if the squad's any stronger than last year, actually.
No, I don't think so. I mean, undoubtedly they'll have one player pop up because generally they have a good performer. I know Bobby Camwell had a good period last year, didn't he, where he was unplayable for like a few weeks, certainly for us anyway. Kind of getting them out of trouble. But yeah, just worry for them. And I think Bristol Rovers are just starting to go through the gears, and I think they're starting to click now.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's move on to the next game. We've mentioned Shrewsbury in this podcast already. They're coming up against Barnet. Barnet. They've sort of picked up after a bit of a slow start. 2 wins and a draw in their last 3 games, whereas there's still problems for Shrews. They picked up a 0-0 draw against Accrington last week. Already, I'm not sure that's really a great point. I think they've got to be winning games, and against probably what maybe could prove to be a relegation rival. I just don't think that's a real standout result as well.
No.
What do you think?
No, I agree. For me, 2-0 Barnet, pretty comfortable, to be honest. I think, unfortunately, for Shrewsbury, Barnet, again, they're a side that started a bit slowly, but they're definitely picking up. They've looked good last couple of weeks. I think they had quite a lot of new faces come through the door. Dean Brennan is incredibly ruthless when it's come to his squad. So I think it's taken a bit of time for them to get used to each other and the league. And I think for Barnet, it's a really good time to play a team like Shrewsbury at home. I think, again, I go back to the goalkeeper thing. That worries me just in itself. Forget everything else. I'll go comfortable win for Barnet, unfortunately.
I have to agree with you. Yeah, I'd say 2-0, maybe more. I think Barnet are just starting to push on a little bit. They're starting to get a click in, getting used to the league. I think when you come up from the National League, you've got that sort of winning form. You've got a bit of a formula there on how to win. You come against a team like Shrewsbury, who are just, as we've touched on, absolutely in the mud. I think Barnet are going to really, really sort of put them to the sword a little bit come Saturday.
Yeah, and I can't really disagree. I'll go 3-0. I think it'll be different. I think Barnet will win quite comfortably. Had that slow start, but they've really started to find their feet now in the Football League. Like I thought it'd come. I had no real concerns with that. Barrow up against Swindon in this. It's been a bit of a up-down start for Barrow. I think mainly both. I think they have played some tough games in that time. Lost 1-0 to Fleetwood last week after playing most of that game with 10 men. As a Swindon, on the other hand, they've started the season really well. Actually, 4 wins from their first 6 league games. I think that's right. Yeah, it is. Yeah, 4 wins from their first 6 league games. They've lost the other 2, and they beat Crewe 3-0 last week, which was a brilliant result for them. How do you see this one going?
For me, I'm actually going for a 1-1, which might be surprising. I think Barrow, again, unfortunate. Like, they've had quite a high turnover of players in the summer. Wouldn't have done if it was up to them. They lost their 3 centre midfielders, one of the best midfields in the league, I've thought, the last few years. I know they've not had a lot else, but Keane Spence, Robbie Gotts, I mean, those 2 in themselves, it's not easy to replace. And they said high turnover. So I think they're a steady side, and I think Holker Street anyway is a really hard place to go and get a victory. Swindon haven't drawn a game yet, so that's why I'm going for a draw. that's my thinking for that one. I think Barrow have got enough to keep them at bay.
I'm going for a 1-0 Barrow. I'm feeling Barrow away is always, for everyone, not a fun game. I think when MK Dons went up there, am I right in saying it was a 1-0 win to MK Dons? And
I think 2. I think it was 2.
Was it 2? It was tough, and I think you look at MK Dons with their sort of firepower. I'm not sure Swindon are going to be able to do much. It's going to be see what they can get at, see if they can grind out something. I think Barrow might just get, with an early goal, maybe push out a 1-0, maybe.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. And I won't be surprised if they get something from that Holker Street. I mean, Barrow's miles away as it is, and no team really wants to go there, let's be honest. But they're very capable of causing a result, and I won't be surprised if they did. I think Swindon feels like, or certainly sounds like, the perfect opposition. I know that I think they've got, now Caravan was suspended because of his red card last week. I saw something earlier that Ben Whitfield had an incident in that game.
Yeah, I saw that today, actually, yeah.
So they're missing a couple of big players there for a period of time. But I don't hate it at all. And I won't be surprised if Barrow win. Yeah, you know what? Let's go for a 1-0 Barrow. Now you've mentioned it. I can totally see it. Cambridge are coming up against Oldham. I think we've mentioned Oldham a couple of times. I think it's been mentioned here. 3 draws, or 4 draws in the league, since they've come back up. I think they've been unlucky not to get more points. I mean, we were talking, I think it was off air that we were talking about how they were pretty unlucky. I think probably a little unlucky against you lot last week. But coming up against Cambridge this week, they won their last league game against Newport, who are a little bit on a down ebb at the minute. And they've not started the season too badly at all either. They've beaten Cambridge, they've beaten Colchester, they've taken a point off Harrogate. They did lose to Swindon, but they've not started terribly. They've started okay from what I've seen. What do you think?
I'm going to go 1-0 Cambridge. As we mentioned, Michael Mellon's come in at Oldham now, which I'm sure will help, and I'm sure that it will help them score a few more goals. I've watched enough Neil Harris football to know that they're probably not going to beat them 2 or 3. I don't think they're a side that are going to really dominate many teams, I don't think, this year, Cambridge, but I think they'll be very efficient and very good and very effective. So I think Cambridge will score, and I think they'll be very, very handy at keeping Oldham at bay. 1-0.
Yeah, I'm thinking a tight 1-0 to Cambridge. Cambridge have scored 8 goals in the last 5 matches, so they can clearly put the ball in the back of the net. I think Oldham have been really unlucky this season. I think actually their league table position doesn't really reflect where they are and how they've been playing. I think they've been quite unlucky. At some point, I think it will definitely click. Like I was saying with Barnet, when you come up from National League, there's clearly something that you've got a formula going well. But I do think Cambridge probably just had the edge this week.
Yeah, because I think Oldham's an interesting one. I was sort of looking into, I know they've been promoted since then. They had that incredible playoff run. But I was sort of looking at their games from since the start of the year, and they weren't necessarily great in some of their results if you've seen it. But look, I guess it's a new start, and maybe there has been a fair bit of player turnover. Yeah, it'd be tight. I think Cambridge will nick it though. Probably a 1-0. I'd probably agree with that. Cheltenham and Accrington. You know what? I'm not even gonna explain where the two teams are at the minute. I just see that game already as big early doors, actually.
Yeah, I think it's an early must-win, isn't it? Probably more so for Cheltenham. I don't know why I think more so for Cheltenham, but I do. They're the home side. They're dead bottom at the moment. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Cheltenham win. I think they've got more than Accrington do, although Accrington did keep hold of Tyler Walton and they did sign Paddy Madden. So, you've got potentially 10, 12 goals maybe between those two. But much like if we're saying the Shrewsbury result, a 0-0 was a poor result, I think Cheltenham need to go out and they need to win the game. So I'm going to go 2-1 Cheltenham.
I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to go 2-1 Aki. I think Cheltenham just seem to leak goals. They haven't kept a clean sheet in, I think it's about 6 matches now, I read somewhere. Accrington scoring about 4 goals, I think, in the last 5 matches. They seem to be able to get one goal. That's, I think, maybe 2-1, maybe 1-0, but I think Accrington might just edge it. I think both sets of fans are going to be up for this one. They know it's a bit of an early season relegation 6-pointer, potentially. They could just push. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Accrington got that draw last week at Shrewsbury. It looked like Shrewsbury had more of the chances in there, but they managed to hold out for a point. I think that they're very capable of getting some wins here and there. Whereas for Cheltenham, 1 point picked up in their first 6, and that was last week at Salford. Very nearly a very good result. If you saw the game though, looked like they were massively outplayed. Just one of those days for Salford, and they managed to nick that equaliser right at the end. But I think something's really got to give. I think for Cheltenham, because even though they nicked a point from that, I didn't think much of them at all. You know what? Let's go for Cheltenham's first win of the season. With them, I think probably them being at home, probably a 1-0. It'll be tight. You know how Accrington will set up, and they do cause problems for that, and they will cause teams problems. They've taken points of us. Didn't they take points off you? Was it opening day?
First game of the season. Yeah, it was 1-0. I travelled up for that one. They looked a good side, solid side, but I think they'll get most of their points at home, won't they? Accrington, similar to Barrow.
Yeah, totally agree. Because we drew 1-1 with them the other week. We should have won the game. Missed a penalty, missed a sitter, and then we get done by a drop ball, and they've just crossed it into the box, and the man's got a header on it, which was frustrating. But yeah, you can see how they get points for sure. Colchester coming up against Crewe. Crewe obviously had that disappointing result at home to Swindon last week, but absolutely thumped Chesterfield in the cup. If you really want to read much into that, I think you probably should. 7 goals either way. I know we talked about Chesterfield, but I think Crewe deserve the credit there. They certainly started the season on the front foot, and they lost last game as well. Whereas I think for Colchester, they started off slow, weren't they? But I think they sort of did last year, didn't they? Drew 1-1 with Barnet last week.
I've got this down as a 0-0. The thinking really is, again, it seems ridiculous. Crewe scored 7 goals midweek, but I think defensively you're looking at a very different side between Chesterfield and Colchester. I think Colchester have struggled to turn draws to wins, but they also haven't lost many. So we kind of showed a little bit that if you can be really compact, organised, and sensible against Crewe, you can keep them out. They were. We beat them 1-0. It was a tight game. I think we deserved to win it, to be honest. I know they had a couple of chances, but we did as well. And I think the way that the Cowleys are and the way they set up, I think they'll be relatively similar. I almost feel like this could be a Colchester win. I'm teetering on that. Like the only thing keeping me back from that is whether Samson Davide decides he wants to have a good game or not. Because I think that could be the difference. I really do. But I'm gonna go with a 0-0 draw.
I'm gonna say 2-0 to Crewe. I think Crewe losing 3-0 to Swindon last week. There's going to be a little bit chomping between the teeth there to get something back. Colchester seem like they've always got a big defeat in them, to be honest. I think the draw last week against Barnet, a good result, away from home, getting a draw. But Crewe, I just feel like Crewe want to 7 goals in midweek, push on, maybe a couple of goals against Colchester, and really sort of push it. They're fourth at the moment. I think the Crewe fans will be loving that. So, yeah, 2-0 against Colchester.
Yeah, okay. I think it's a game where Crewe could potentially come stuck. I mean, you are playing Colchester, you know what you're going to get with a Danny Cowley side, don't you? Yeah, I won't be surprised if it's a home win. Won't be surprised if it's an away win. So I'm probably just going to sit on the fence either way after saying that. Yeah, I can very much see a 0-0. Again, tight game. I don't think there'll be much in the two sides if there are anything. But I totally agree with your point that there is a hammering in Crewe, as I think we've seen a couple of times. Harrogate are coming up against Crawley. Harrogate have started the season okay. I think they've lost the last couple though, haven't they? Lost to Chesterfield, lost to Bromley last week. I mean, Bromley have started the season well, but as for Crawley, they've not started the season that well at all. 2 points picked up, albeit the 2 points that they have picked up were against MK Dons and Chesterfield. Would you believe it? They were 2-0 up against Chesterfield there last week. Probably should have won the game. Actually, in the end, if you saw it, but maybe things started to look up a little bit. I don't know, but Harrogate have started quite solidly despite the back-to-back defeats. I'd probably say.
Yeah, it actually feels to me that Harrogate this year have actually got a bit of a balance now between being that side that are rugged and horrible to play against and hard to beat, but they've actually got goals in them this year. Crawley, I hate predicting anything that's got anything to do with Crawley. It's impossible. It really is. I know they've had a bad start. They've just signed Ryan Loft from Cambridge. Makes absolutely no sense. The guy, he's not been very good for the last couple of years. But Scott Lindsay could turn him into Danilo Wolsey. We don't know. Honestly, I have no idea.
Turn water into wine if you wanted to.
It's crazy.
I can't see it.
No, I'm exactly the same as you, but it just would not surprise me in the slightest if Ryan Loft starts banging. I don't know. I'm going to go with a 1-0 Harrogate win. I think the 2 games they've lost have been to better sides. We're talking favourites for promotion. I think Crawley, whilst they've definitely been improving slowly, their performance has been getting better. Again, similar thing to Barrow. They're going to Harrogate, which is not a nice place to go and try and get yourself your first win of the season. So I'll go with a slim Harrogate win, 1-0.
This is like the worst match to predict here. Harrogate and Crawley. Crawley just the weirdest team. Always the weirdest transfers. No one knows really what they're doing. They seem to pull out a gem from anywhere. Scott Lindsay. I think if Crawley didn't have Scott Lindsay, they'd just be favourites to go down because it would just be an absolute mess. Somehow he seems to keep it together. I think it was absolutely the right decision to bring him back in. Harrogate, though, at home, I think might just edge it. 1-0, maybe a 1-1. But Crawley, Harrogate, what a hard game to predict.
Hard, isn't it?
Don't bet on that game.
That's a nil team, aren't they? I think Harrogate will win this by a few more. I think it'd be a better game. I don't know. It's hard to predict with Crawley because you don't know which Crawley team going to turn up. But going to Harrogate, it's a long way for them. Would they fancy it? Probably not. 2-1, probably 3-1 Harrogate. I feel quite confident in saying that. I think they've got a good team this year, good blend, as you say, and I really like what they're doing. Right, correct answers only for this one. MK Dons are coming up against Grimsby. Both sides lost last week. Both sides lost their unbeaten starts last week, although we were playing Manchester United and we did win, albeit via cheating. But we'll keep quiet about that. But yeah, it's not really
much scandal.
There's not really much to say other than both teams will want a response.
Yeah, absolutely. I've gone, and I'm not sitting on the fence on purpose here, but I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I think, to be said off air, I think with Mendes Lang not being around, he's not available for the game. He's on international duty. MK, to me, appear to still be trying to figure out exactly what they are and trying to get this Galactico of League Two team to start gelling a little bit. I think you're in a much better position as far as knowing what you are, players knowing their jobs. Tactically, I think Dave Artell, possibly one of the better managers in the league. I don't necessarily think you'll win the game, but I think it'll be a 1-1. I'm going for.
I think you might be right. I think it's got a draw written all over it. MK haven't wowed me this season. On paper, you just go, their transfer's brilliant. They should be fine. But there's been a few results. The draw against Crawley, the loss to Walsall. I'm not sure. They're not wowing me. I think you've got Grimsby, who are, the Manchester United game, bit of a strange result, but they know how to fight against a team who, on paper, should be way better than them. I mean, Manchester United, who knows? But MK Dons, I never fancy them at home. I don't think most teams have home advantage. Their home advantage, it doesn't seem to really pull the ball into the back of the net when they're playing at home. And I think Grimsby might just have a bit of something, but I'm gonna sit on the fence and say 1-1.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't disagree. I mean, I'll snap your hand off for a 1-1 personally. I think MK, I can see where you're coming from. I think they'll click eventually. Maybe they've been a little bit slower than maybe what we thought for a side that's probably probably are expected to romp it. But I'm not worried yet. I mean, they've scored a few goals. They've not conceded many either. I was saying to another podcast last night that we've got nothing to fear going into these sorts of games. I mean, if we were going toe-to-toe against Man United, for Christ's sakes, and we were the best team for 60, 65 minutes for it because we got in their faces. If we can do that, MK Dons shouldn't be much of a problem. I'm just hopeful that the players have got the rest that they needed. I really wish we didn't have that game on Tuesday against Bradford in the Cup. I think the players needed that week off just to reset.
Yeah.
Not just physically, but mentally as well, because obviously it's been like media central over here at the minute, and rightfully so because of that United game. Look, I'll snap your hand off for a 1-1 draw, and I think we're very much capable of going there and getting a result. And I'll say that because I'll never predict us to lose. I mean, Notts County and Fleetwood are up next for a game that might not even take place. If you saw the statement about an hour,
yeah, strange, isn't it?
I've not read that before. A
really
rare
odd.
At Meadow Lane. I've certainly not seen that one before. But let's say the game does go ahead. What are we thinking?
I'm going for a comfortable 2-0 away win. I like Fleetwood. I like Pete Wild. They, in my mind, I appreciate it's a little bit pie in the sky for them probably, but I have them in my top 3. I think they've built a really good squad. They've recruited well. They brought in an awful lot of money in the summer with Mackenzie Hunt, with Wiradoo, etc. Phoenix Patterson has gone for a decent fee. I think they've replaced them well. The players they brought in seem to have settled in pretty quickly. I know they've had a couple of rough results, but nothing to worry about. And I don't trust Notts County in any way. I don't. It's not that I don't rate Martin Patterson as a manager. I don't think anybody's seen enough of him. I'm not keen on their. Just not keen on what they're doing. The project there just seems a little bit off for me. Transfer window hasn't impressed me. I don't think they've looked particularly good in most games, probably with the exception of Shrewsbury, but take that as it is. So yeah, I think a 2-0 away win for Fleetwood for that one.
I think I'm gonna go opposite. I'm gonna say a 1-0 to Notts County. I think at home Notts County can do bits there. They're scoring goals. 9 goals in the last 5 matches is pretty good. I do like Fleetwood. Pete Wild, brilliant manager. They seem to have a bit of a project going there. Notts County seem like they've just, from last season, getting into the playoffs, they seem to not have recovered from that. I just still feel that they're going to have a little bit more than Fleetwood do, and maybe a 1-0.
Yeah, look, I'll be the first to say I really like what Fleetwood are doing. I really like Pete Wild as a manager. I think the squad suits him. I've always raved about Fleetwood's squad even last season. Yes, it probably didn't have the impact that maybe I thought it would. Don't really think Charlie Adam was really the correct man for it. I think if they had Pete Wild at the start of the season, things might have been a lot different. But he's had the summer and they've got players to really suit their system, which I'm pretty impressed by. And they've kept some big names as well. Whereas Notts County, I just get confused by them.
Yeah.
And there's a few different reasons as to that. Obviously, with the appointment of Martin Patterson and their whole technical board or whatever. Mate, are we looking into that too big? Probably not. I don't know. It's really hard to tell. And I don't even think they've done that much in the transfer window either to give me with confidence that they'll really, really kick on from the disappointment of last year. I mean, we mentioned it the other day, the two big losses of McGoldrick and Bass. They replaced Bass with Calarouche, which I'm really not sold on.
Yeah, strange one. Really strange one.
And then, all right, it was always going to be massively difficult to keep hold of McGoldrick. I don't feel like they did enough to keep him either way.
No, that seemed like a conscious decision to me. The letting him go, and I don't know whether that's a financial decision or whether they're with this technical board. Maybe they're looking at specific profiles of players and ages. I don't know. I feel like they're overcomplicating something that doesn't need overcomplicating. To be honest with you, he was probably the best player in the league last year, arguably, but one of. You just give him what he wants. Surely, keep him and let him get you up.
Yeah, and don't go on about it. I'm not quite sold on Patterson yet, but I do feel slightly sorry for him.
Yeah, me too.
I think in terms of, I was expecting, I think they needed to bring in a few players in on deadline day, and just there was nothing, no peep or anything, just for anything like that, which I was really surprised about. I can't see them doing much this year. I really can't. I probably would go for an away win. I think they'll score Notts, but I think they'll go for 2-1 Fleetwood. I just feel there's a real good vibe around the club at the minute, and I really like what they're doing. There's a big game in FTF as well. It's not just that one. Jake and Jack from the channel, Jake being a Salford fan and Jack being a Tranmere fan, they're also coming up against each other this midweek. I mean, Salford have started off pretty well themselves. I think. I mean, they nicked a point right at the end against Cheltenham. Probably should have won the game. 2 wins and a defeat in the last 4 alongside that draw. Whereas Tranmere, I think, have started really well actually, despite defeats in Notts County last week where they were 1-up. I mean, already they look more solid and more better either way. I think they played a game less as well. 2 wins in that time, 2 draws. You're always going to get a tough test, I think, with Tranmere either way. It's just trying to do the other side of it. Joe Ironside could be a game changer. Actually, I rate that signing a lot. But how do you think this one will go?
At the moment, I've got it 2-1 Salford, but I think it could also be 2-1 the other way quite easily. I just don't think it will be a draw. I think there will be a winner in the game. Salford's window has been an interesting one. I think there's been some good signings. I really like the Udo signing on deadline day from Wickham. I think he'll be a really good player for them, especially the way they play. The Uruguayan centre forward, I love that because I haven't got a clue who he is or where he's come from. Love it, brilliant. Get him in, see how he goes. But similarly with Tranmere, I think they look a completely different animal to last season. I think Crosby's got them playing a lot better. They're scoring some goals. They're not an easy team to beat anymore. They're certainly not. Last season, certainly for the first half, they were sort of just almost an easy 3 points for a lot of teams. And I think since Crosby's come in, it's a completely different beast. So I've got it at 2-1 Salford purely because they're at home, but it could quite easily be 2-1, 2-0 the other way. It's one of those games. It'd be a good game though.
Yeah, it's got a good game written all over it, to be honest. I think both teams are going to go head to head here, and it's going to be the team that sort of nick a goal in it that is going to make the difference. I think I'm going to go Salford. I'm quite liking Salford for this season. I think now the class of 96 have stepped back a little bit. I think this is their season to really sort of push on, and I think they've got a chance of getting into the playoffs. Actually, So yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go 2-1 Salford.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Salford got a very good chance of making the pass. Actually, I really like what they've done this window. A lot of experienced pros in there, but some real good quality in that squad as well. Yeah, I think it depends what sort of teams somewhat turn up, I guess. But yeah, I think I'll probably go for a 2-1 Salford win as well, just purely for the fact that they're at home.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention Amari Patrick though, because he could win the game on his own. So it's one of those that, you know, Tranmere have got a proper real informed forward player there, and that could win them any game. So
absolutely, he's a player I rave about a lot. He can certainly hit a ball. He scored from inside the box last week, so it shouldn't really count as far as I'm concerned.
Disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I lost either way, so it wouldn't have mattered. Right, 2 more games to get through. Walsall coming up against Chesterfield, of course, a repeat of last season's playoff semi-final, in which Walsall overcame the Spirites. How do you think?
1-0 Walsall. I've done my Chesterfield defensive bit, and I've done my Chesterfield coming up against good, solid, structured teams bit. I think Walsall will win the game. I think it will be a set piece, and it will be Aidan Flint or Aaron Presley. That's my very specific prediction.
I like it. I like that a lot. I think Chesterfield, on paper, brilliant team. In reality, maybe not fully there. Second place in the league maybe flatters them a little bit. I'm thinking Walsall 2-1.
I'm also thinking of Walsall 2-1. I've seen enough to suggest that Walsall will be strong again this year. I know there's been a lot of turnover, a lot of players that moved up to League One, rightly so. I mean, I think they might have been slightly frustrated that he wasn't with Walsall, but some of those players have deserved that move. I mean, a lot of change, of course, but it looks like they're sticking to what they know well. I really like how they set up, to be fair. They're in transition, they're really good going forward, aren't they? And
I really think that could hurt Chesterfield.
Absolutely.
Very specifically, yeah. And I really like Daniel Carnu, who they've signed from Cheltenham. He's a really, really good young centre forward. Very quick, very strong. So yeah,
absolutely. So I think Chesterfield will score mine, but I'll go for a 2-1 Walsall. And finally, we've left the best till last, with it being a 5:30 kick-off, with Gillingham making the trip to Bromley. Of course, you two Gills fans, what do you think?
Oh, I don't want to do a prediction. I want to sit as far away as possible. As I kind of said to you earlier on, it may have been off air. I think you've got two sides that do very similar things very well. Bromley's strongest point is that Mitch Pinnock left foot and Michael Cheek or Suomni in the middle to finish it off, and they are incredible at it. It's almost impossible to defend against, as a lot of teams have found out. I think we're going to be switching it up. I don't think we're going to be playing how we've been playing this season. I think, given, as I said, Ryan Lowe's interview earlier on, talking about Johnny Smith, I think we'll be playing a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 or something like that. Yeah. It's going to be a real interesting game. I don't think it will be high scoring for obvious reasons, but I'm going to back us and go for a 1-0 away win. That's all I really want to say on that one.
I think both sets of fans are really up for this one. It's been really tricky to get tickets for the Gills fans. We've to the point we're selling out most of the pubs around here with tickets just to watch the game. I think Gills are going to go there to try to get anything. I think Gareth will be happy to come out with a draw, to be honest. I think it's one of those ones. They beat us 3-0 last season. They beat us 2-1 at their place last season. I think we'd be happy to come away with a point. That being said, I just feel like Gills are just getting wins this season out of nowhere, really keeping the clean sheets. I'm going to go 1-0 Gills.
1-1.
I'll take it. I'll
take it.
You probably think something's got to give. Two sides unbeaten. Both sides have started the season really well, but I honestly can't call it. I think it's very close.
You got two managers that are just very good at not losing at the moment, and I can't see. I can't see it being high scoring, and I'm just praying we're not on the wrong end of a result. But we will see. We will see.
Yeah, we will see indeed. Perfect. I think we'll probably wrap it up there. Thank you for being involved, and we'll catch you in the next one.